You guys take every game seriously, prepare for every game, but even with that, was this still a little bit of a wake-up call out at UMass? That you tell your guys every team's going to give you their A game, but you guys saw it firsthand on Saturday afternoon.
I think anytime you're picked to win your conference, you're going to get everybody's best shot within your conference, certainly, and that was an example of that. I think they probably played their best game of the year. I saw them on film as being a very physical football team that played hard. Give their coaches credit. You know, I've always told you guys that if we have a tough football team that plays hard all the time, that we'll have a shot at winning. And that's how I see their football team. And, you know, we portray that to our guys, and I think they understood that. I don't think we took them easy by any stretch of the imagination, either as coaches or players, but I know where you're coming from. You know, it's difficult at times to get young men to not look at statistics and win-loss records and try to perceive what a team's about before you play them. But, you know, we certainly guard against that because the other thing that I've always mentioned is that every game in the MAC is a game you've got to come and play your best at to have a shot. And I give our guys credit for, you know, being able to handle their best shot and being able to come back and get the win. So I don't think it was as much of a letdown on our part. There's a lot of areas we got to improve to really be a good football team. We're identifying those as we go through the season and trying to get those corrected. And you know, this was one of those games where, you know, you look at what they accomplished offensively against us, and you're a little concerned because they had not been able to move the ball that effectively against other teams. Now, you know, they did play some great football teams too, some high-ranking football teams, and but you know, it's what it is. We lined up, we played well, not great. We played well enough to win.
Is there changing perspectives on what constitutes good defense nowadays in college? Yeah, just look at the MAC on Saturday. I'm sure you saw some of the other scores. You guys were 37-34, and you were the second lowest scoring game of the day in the conference. And so, you know, from that perspective, do coaches, do fans, do players even have to readjust what their, you know, what constitutes a good defensive effort on a Saturday nowadays?
Yeah, I do, and I think head coaches have to readjust their thinking a little bit too, because it's pretty easy to maybe get down on your defense if a team scores a bunch of points, but teams are scoring a bunch of points across the board in the country, and so you got to understand that you know, there's probably going to be some points put on the board. You got to look at areas like third down conversions, and you got to work at getting better in those areas. You got to look at red zone chances and scores and get better in those areas. So there's some, you know, individual areas that if you really play well in, you're probably going to manage the game a little bit better from a defensive standpoint. You know, of course, you look at the turnovers and all those things add into it, but with all that being somewhat equal, you know, and field position being somewhat equal, then it comes down to defensively, in my mind, you know, how many 3-and-outs you get, you know, how effective are they in explosive plays, both passes and runs, and if you can manage that, then you're probably going to give yourself a chance at maybe slowing whoever offense you're playing down some. But it's a difficult deal. You know, it's a wide open game. Everybody's able to recruit wide receivers. You know, I don't think there's a team that doesn't have really, really good wide receivers. I think we understand what quarterback recruiting's like, because there's always several teams in the MAC that have just outstanding quarterback play, so you're able to get those. And with the kind of passing game that now exists, the short passes, the swing passes to the backs, the quick passes to the wideouts at the line of scrimmage, those are almost like running plays, and they're replacing running plays. And the quarterbacks, you're not able to get the quarterback as much because they're real quick throws, three-step type of throws, and so regardless of how good an up-front group you have, if that ball's getting released very quickly and they're able to convert on third downs, then they're going to put themselves in position to score points. So you're seeing a lot of that. At one point, it used to be, too, and I'm kind of expanding on this a little bit, but at one point I think it used to be you couldn't score in the red zone through the air as easily as you could on the ground. I don't think that's necessarily true anymore. I think you can find some really good offensive football teams that get down deep into the red zone, and they're putting scores up on the board by throwing the ball, not necessarily by running it. Now you still have those teams that also are just great running football teams down there, and then you have the kind of the combination guys that are able to be a one-back and a two-back team, and then use their two-back in short yardage and goal line situations. So there's a lot of ways to attack. I think teams are working hard at trying to figure out defensively how to slow some of this down.
Coach, obviously, with UMass, they came into the game with Michael Cox. They were kind of a team known for their running, not necessarily their passing plays, and hadn't even thrown a touchdown pass. And obviously, he had an exceptional game against you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo, kind of the same way. They're not necessarily a team known for passing the ball. Do you think your guys are starting to develop, with that being said, prepare for anything mentality that this team might try to air the ball out against your secondary, seeing how young and experienced they may be? Yeah,
it was disappointing in terms of how we handled the passing game last week, and so that's going to have to improve. Every team in the MAC, I think a team has an identity, and theirs is toughness, and they like to run the ball, and from the offensive standpoint, but UMass, was somewhat the same way, and so we let their passing attack come alive, and we can't afford to continue to do that.
Watching the game Saturday, it seemed fairly obvious that Tyler was instructed to or elected not to. He was trying to avoid contact at all costs. Can you continue to play him at quarterback in that kind of scenario? At some point he has to get healthy enough where that doesn't become an issue anymore, right? Because teams will eventually.
Yeah, we think we got him through last game without re-aggravating the injury, and that was huge for us. And we were ready to take him out at the first sign of it bothering him, and so, right now, I believe he's over it. I know he had a little soreness yesterday, but that was to be expected, not necessarily meaning that he re-injured himself. And so I think if we're smart on how we handle him, I think he has a shot of going into this next game at 100% and can operate everything within our offense. If you noticed, we became one-dimensional with Bo as in the running game, and they figured that out. We were still able to run it, but they obviously understood, and they were on the reads. They were taking away the run by our quarterback, which was good for us because we didn't want him to do a lot of running, and so our offense is we're operating at 2/3 of how we should be operating probably.
Talk a little bit about Bo's performance over the weekend and how you intend to use him against UB.
Okay. Well, he's had a great season. I think he's maybe second in the nation in yards rushing. Is that correct? And so that's huge. That's a tribute to a lot of people. Linemen, Bo himself, obviously, quarterbacks carrying out fakes, receivers blocking downfield, and so a lot goes into that, but no one can argue with his productivity, his toughness, his ability to get the tough yards, and then also to make, just a remarkable run on the one where his hand went down and he kept his balance, and that's a big time run, and so he's now starting to make more explosive runs, runs of over 25, And so that's really good to see. We had more of that this past game than probably what we've had. And so I think that's coming some. And so, you know, you can't get any more out of a back than what he's given us. And I think we can maybe give him some relief. He doesn't really want relief. He just wants to keep getting those kind of reps. But I think we can give him some relief. And with Ryan Boykin coming back, Ryan Boykin should be 100% healthy. This is the first time he's been that way since he had an injured hamstring very early on. And so, you know, I think Ryan is a very, very good running back. And, you know, we'll be able to, I think, utilize him this week.
Coach, it appears that Bo has out of the top rushers in the nation, he has the second most carries. If someone would have told you that going into the season, how would you perceive that? Is it surprising that he has so many carries? And what kind of made that decision necessary for you guys?
Him being the only healthy, experienced running back. You know, Daz and Kyle, I think are good running backs, but they're inexperienced, and so with Bo being able to handle that number of carries, we just kept going with him. And you know, obviously, if Boykin was healthy at the early part of the season, that'd have been, you know, Bo would have started, Ryan would have gotten playing time, and so it wouldn't have been quite what it is now in terms of the number of carries for him.
You spoke before about how Bo is just the kind of running back that just wants the carries, wants the workload. What type of player, how rare is a player like that where they just don't mind the workload and actually want more?
Well, you know, it's not rare to find players like that. It's rare for them to be able to hold up and do it. You know, everybody wants it. I have not known a running back that doesn't want 100 carries in a game, you know, but they can't hold up. And health-wise, in most cases, game after game after game of that, he seems to be a guy that's able to do that.